That's right. So if everybody has got the text, we will start. Okay? And we have read it once already, so we will go sentence by sentence. So I'm beginning. Okay? It is 7:51 already, so we can start. A principle of dark and dull inertia is at its base. Okay, we stop here. We have seen very often that the entire range of existence is arranged like a mountainous plateau, if you want, and each plateau is one level of consciousness, level of substance, and level of existence also, you can say. It's arranged in 7 degrees according to Sri Aurobindo. He's following the Vedic pattern. So there are 7 planes. We will follow that also. There are some who say 5, some who say 3. Okay, some who say even many. Mother says you can count as many as you want, because every inch that you go up, the characteristics of the plane also changes. Okay, even in one plane, in the lower parts of the plane, let us say the mental plane. Okay, if you go to the lower parts of the mental plane, but above the normal mind, you experience certain things. But if you go to the higher ranges of that same plane, mind plane, you experience things in a slightly different way. So you can draw the line wherever you want. And these 7 planes are, as Sri Aurobindo said, Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda, and mind like Supermind. Okay. So this is at the bottom, it is matter. And matter is, we know, it's a principle of dark and dull inertia. Inertia, non-movement, and it is dark. There is no light there at all. Okay. And as you keep going up, the light increases and the energy also increases, and the inertia starts becoming less and less and less, until finally at the highest level, no darkness at all. God is light and he is also full of energy, and there is no dull inertia, no dullness at all. It may be a static condition, but it's full of power and light. Okay, that's the thing. Now I read the next phrase. All are tied down by the body and its needs and desires to a trivial mind, petty desires and emotions, an insignificant repetition of small, worthless functionings, needs, cares, occupations, pains, pleasures that lead to nothing beyond themselves and bear the stamp of an ignorance that knows not its own why and whither. So, why 90% of humanity does not even know why they are living, from where they have come and where they are going. Okay, this is the condition of because they are all subject to the principle of matter, which is darkness and dullness. Okay, 90%. Yeah, I mean, percentage is a way of speaking. Nobody has measured and taken a poll, so we don't know. But most human beings are at that level. They don't even ask themselves, from where have I come? What is the aim of life? Okay, where am I going? After death, what happens? Do I disappear or do I go somewhere? Is there something beyond my body, mind, life? All these questions come to when there is an awakening and you have gone through many, many lives, and now you are ready for a more further inquiry. So he is describing the normal condition of man. All are tied down. Even those who are awakened, they are tied down by the body. The body has a tremendous gravitational pull downwards, even on yogis, even on avatars. Okay, the influence is there. But the avatar is able to contradict and counter this downward pull, and he can remain stationed in the higher parts of the being, but he always has a body. Remember that. So, are tied down by the body and its needs. The body has needs. The needs of the body are sleep, food, okay? And if you go a little more, the sense of wants to reproduce itself. This is what the body needs, okay? And desires. Desires belong to the vital. And these desires are of what nature? Trivial mind and mind, okay? Desires belong to the vital, and the mind has got very trivial thoughts, okay? Very insignificant. Oh, I have to go and attend an invitation. I have to go and attend a wedding today. I want to eat this. I want to eat that. Okay, I want to wear these clothes. All sorts of trivial compared to the spiritual life where you don't need all these things at all. Trivial mind, petty desires and emotions, an insignificant repetition of small worthless functionings. Okay? If you look carefully, you will see that there is a repetition in life. Always there is every day we get up, we go to sleep, one functioning repetition, and we every day we get up, we have a bath, we have a breakfast, and then go to work and come back. Always there is a repetition. Worthless functionings, they say, needs, cares, occupations, pains, pleasures that lead to nothing beyond themselves. So long as you are tied down to the body, you'll be circling at level 1. Level 1, remember, body, mind, life. Okay, matter, life, and mind. So you are stuck in that place, and you're going on revolving. That's the nature of the normal human being. That leads to nothing beyond themselves. So you are stuck in that plane until you feel the necessity of breaking out of this barrier. That necessity of breaking out comes when you start questioning yourself, and it comes in many ways. Sometimes it comes through an unfortunate accident or incident in the family, and then you start questioning. I took everything for granted, but now what has happened? Why has this happened to me? Either a relative passes away, and then you start questioning the meaning of life. Okay, or the famous example of Romain Rolland, that famous man from, actually he was Switzerland, he was not French. But anyway, he felt himself, when he was quite young, he felt himself to be like a rat trapped in the rat trap of the universe, and he wanted to be free. Very, very young he was. So this is what you start feeling. You feel the restrictions of your body, your vital, and all these petty things, and then you start waking up. So the stamp of an ignorance that knows not its own why. Why do I exist? From where have I come? Where am I going? Whither? Where am I going? All these questions don't bother the normal man. This physical mind of inertia belongs in no divinity other than its own small earth gods. Now, sometimes using the word gods, but actually what happens is that there are small beings, and you can call them gods because they are typal beings. Okay, in the vital world, there are all sorts of beings which are immortal. They don't evolve. They are typal beings. They don't evolve, and you can consider them to be immortal. Okay, little elves, gnomes, all sorts of small forces. Okay, we have got many examples now in the ashram. Little elves and gnomes who are having fun, and sometimes they are also mischievous. Okay, sometimes they are even dark, and they are even evil. Okay, in the lower vital, and in the higher vital also there are beings, but who are slightly in a better condition. Okay, nobler emotions, they are there at the lower. So they were this physical mind of inertia believes. Sorry, I read wrong. The physical mind of inertia believes in no divinity other than its own small earth gods. It aspires perhaps to a greater comfort, order, pleasure, but asks for no uplifting and no spiritual deliverance. Normal man. At the center, we meet a stronger will of life with a greater gusto. So what does he mean by the center? Let's see, and we'll see. Okay? With a greater gusto. This is probably the vital he's talking about. At the center, we meet a stronger will of life. When he talks of will of life, it is the vital, the energy part of you. With a greater gusto, more than the vital. But it's a blinded demon. The word demon is a spirit. It doesn't mean to say a demon with a D-E-M-O-N. D-A-E-M-O-n is a sort of half god, if you want. He has already used the word god, okay, earth gods. So that's what it means. They are forces which remain in the subtler planes of consciousness. A perverted spirit, it's a vital, that is a perverted spirit, and exults in the very elements that make of life a striving turmoil and an unhappy embroglio. Okay, embroglio is a confusion. So that the vital enjoys the drama of life. It doesn't mind. It likes suffering because it wants contrasts. It can be happy. It can also be unhappy. It can also want success, but it can also doesn't. It even enjoys failure. There's a certain pervertedness in it. So they're using the word pervert. Perverted spirit and exults in the very elements that make of life a striving turmoil. The vital is usually attached to even its sufferings. Okay, it's a well-known phenomenon of those who are very observant, that sometimes when people get into a depression and you try suppose you have a good friend and he's gone into a depression for any one reason. He may have failed an exam, he may have lost somebody, or he may have broken up with a friendship or whatever, and you want to get him out of the depression. They refuse. They're enjoying their depression. It's not uncommon at all. Okay, so this is what Sandhi is saying. They enjoy, they exult. Exult means enjoy. Okay, in the very elements that make of life a striving turmoil and an unhappy embroglio. Okay, a confusion. That is vital enjoy because it's perverted. It is a soul of human or titanic desire. It can be human desire, but it can also be a huge desire. Okay, titanic, giant desire, clinging to the garish color. Garish, what does the word garish mean? It means tastelessly showy. That's what it means. Garish. Sometimes we use colors and we refer to some people who are, they use very strong color in some parts of India. So, and they know, sometimes you can have colors which are very showy, but there is a certain harmony between them. But there are some who the colors clash. So, tastelessly showy, very showing off colors, very strong colors. This is the nature of the vital. Disordered poetry, violent tragedy, or stirring melodrama of this mixed flux of good and evil, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, heady rapture and bitter torture. Okay. All these things the vital enjoys. Actually, it enjoys. If you remember, even in our, even in the spiritual field, there are, or in religion also, there are people who torture themselves. Okay, there is some enjoyment in that. You know that Muslims sometimes flog themselves, and they go in a procession in the road and they keep flogging themselves with a whip, and even their back starts, it starts even bleeding. But there is something which enjoys that. In Christianity also, in the Philippines for instance, there are people who put themselves on the cross. They nail themselves to the cross. Wherever Christ was nailed, they also do the same. And then it is not a pretension. Huh? The nail is locked into their palm, like that. And then there is bleeding also. And then after 2-3 hours, they are taken down. Okay? So then there is if you have read that Da Vinci Code, you will see that even in the Christian world, there are people who torture themselves. The idea is that the vital is always wanting pleasure. So I want to discourage the vital. And so you start punishing the vital. You start sleeping on a bed of nails, or you deprive yourself of food, all these type of things. Okay? Or you mutilate yourself even physically. So these things, this was saying, disordered poetry, violent tragedy, stirring melodrama of this mixed flux of good and evil, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, heady rapture, but bitter torture. Everything the vital enjoys. It loves these things. In Savitri, there is a line, I'm not quoting exactly, but he says that humanity is in love with its own imperfection. That's exactly what it is here also. Humanity is in love with its own imperfection. It doesn't want to change easily. It loves these things and would have more and more of them. Or even when it suffers and cries out against them, can accept or joy in nothing else. He has used the word joy as a verb here. He can accept or enjoy nothing else. So if you say joy, you have to say joy in nothing else. It hates and revolts against the higher things, and in its fury would trample, tear, and crucify any diviner power that has the presumption to offer to make life pure, luminous, happy, and snatch from its lips the fiery brew of that exciting mixture. So the fiery brew can be normally the brew is a alcoholic drink, okay, and it can be very fiery like vodka, or there are other things also which are quite fiery. So it enjoys all these things, the vital. But what he's saying is very interesting. In its fury, the vital trample, tear, and crucify any diviner power. I have seen two such cases, and I will tell you what they are. Okay? There was one person in India. That person used to work with me in the press. Okay? And something happened in which she was unhappy. So the vital is revolting. How does this revolt manifest itself? Okay? Now note several words. He's saying, it would, in its fury, trample, tear, crucify any diviner power. So note, it is wanting to do this, crucify any diviner power. So this person got so angry with something that had happened to her. Okay, what she did, she took a glass of water and threw it at mother's picture. Okay, so that's a divinerism. Absolutely what Sridhar is describing, that can happen. In another case, also, I'm giving you examples because Sridhar is not exaggerating. That's why I'm giving you examples that really these things can happen in life. Okay. Then another case was there when a mother who had many children, she had 7, 8 children, and one was far away in Calcutta. And when she got the news that her son had died, she got so furious that she started cursing our mother, our divine mother. She is the one responsible for taking my son away. Okay, this is the vital when it is not purified. So all these things can happen. So I'm giving you examples of what Sridhar is saying. Okay, so fiery brew of that exciting, it can do all this damage, violent dark. So I read the next phrase. Another will in life. Now he has spoken about the will in life higher up. Now he's saying another will in life. That's a higher vital that he's talking about. The higher vital, there is that. Another will in life there is that is ready to follow the ameliorating ideal mind and is allured by its offer to extract some harmony, beauty, light, nobler order out of life. But this is a smaller part of the vital nature and can easily be overpowered by its more violent and darker, duller yoke comrades. So, Sridhar is using the image of yoke comrades, 2 buffaloes or 2 cows or 2 bulls, not cows. Cows are not put on yoke. The bulls, they are yoked to a common, the yoke is the bar that are put on it, and the 2 necks of bulls, or they can even be horses or anything. So, and these are the lower vital and the higher vital. But the higher vital, although it wants to follow the idealism of mind and improve things, because there are nobler emotions in the higher vital. There is love, there is sympathy, there is understanding of others, there is compassion, there is kindness, okay, unselfishness. They are not perfect, but they are there in the higher vital. Love of country, okay. So self-sacrifice, all these things are there in the higher vital. But it is still very much dominated by its yoke comrade. The yoke comrade is the lower vital. Okay, so that's what it is. Nor does it readily lend itself to a call higher than that of the mind unless that call defeats itself. Now, that's interesting what he's saying. As religion usually does, by lowering its demand to conditions more intelligent to our obscure vital nature. So there can be, even the higher vital is maximum, it obeys the mind. Okay, that's all. But there can be a call which is higher than mind. That is you are called to the spiritual life. But that call is often, it defeats itself. It cannot enter into the duller, darker region of the level 1. It cannot. So it defeats itself. It is calling you, but still it does not very become effective. That's what said this. This is what usually religion does. Religion compromises itself. Okay. Very, very clear ideas are there in religion, particularly the example of the Christians when they, the sale of indulgences. You know that, no? The Christian theory says that if you do a good deed, you will go to heaven, and if you do a good bad deed, you will go to hell. But when a person is dying, the priest comes, and then that person who is dying appeals to, I don't want to go to hell, please send me to heaven. So the priest will receive a payment, and then he gives a certificate saying to the soul that you are exempted from going to hell. This is what was called the sale of indulgences. So what is happening? Religion is lowering its standard and easily obeying the darker law, not the lighter law. Okay, that's what Sadhguru is saying. By lowering its demand to conditions more intelligible to our obscure vital nature. All these forces the spiritual seeker grows aware of in himself. When you are very, very observant, you see that all these imperfections and limitations and perversions are there in yourself. It is there in everybody. Only when you start purifying yourself and calling in higher forces, then purity can come. Otherwise, this is common in everybody. Whether it shows or not, it is there common in everybody. And finds all around him, aware of in himself, and finds all around him, and has to struggle and combat incessantly to be rid of their grip and dislodge the long entrenched mastery they have exercised over his own being as over the environing human existence. So Sadhguru is saying this imperfection that you have got because of your body, vital and mind, it is coming from many, many lives, past lives. Okay, you have started your life as a small being, unicellular creature, and that was completely subject to matter and life. So slowly it may have evolved and a higher vital comes in, but still you are very much subjected to the lower darkness of the level 1. That's what it is. The difficulty is great. It's not easy to break out of this darkness. The difficulty is great, for their hold is so strong, so apparently invincible, unconquerable, that it justifies the disdainful dictum which compares human nature to a dog's tail. This is Vivekananda's famous example. Human nature, vital, is not something you can deal with very easily. You put your mind control on it and say, no, I don't want to do this bad deed. And then as soon as the mind control goes away, it goes back to its normal desire again and again. And the image used is that of a dog's tail. You take it in your hand and make it straight. But as soon as you leave it, it will go back to the crooked curl of nail. That's what Sadhguru said. The disdainful dictum. Disdainful. You hate the vital because it is of this nature. As soon as you let it go, it goes back to its old habits of imperfection and impurity. Okay. So, for straighten it, never so much by force of ethics. Ethics means morality. And morality means mind control, not soul control, mind control. Religion, reason, or any other redemptive effort. To redeem is to get back to the purity. So whatever effort you make, it will always go back to, what Sadhguru is saying, it returns in the end always to the crooked curl of nature. The crooked curl is that of the dog, but even nature is of that nature. Nature is that character. Okay, crooked curl of nature. Nature with an N cap. It is there in all nature, not only in human beings, but even in animals. Habits die hard. That's what he said. And so great is the whim, the clutch of that more agitated life will. The more agitated life will is the lower vital. So immense the peril of its passions and errors, so subtly insistent or persistently invasive. It keeps coming into you, however much you reject it. So obstinate, up to the very gates of heaven, the fury of its attack or the tedious obstruction of its obstacles, that even the saint and the yogin cannot be sure of their liberated purity or their trained self-mastery against its intrigue or its violence. So, even the yogis, because they cannot 100% be sure that their vital, however much you purify, always the chance of a fall is there. It's happened many times. Okay, so many people were there in the ashram, more than half a dozen, who were following Mother and Swayambhu, but after some time they left because the call of the ordinary life was very strong in them. Many have left. So that's why, and you call them Bhrashta Yogi, a yogi who has fallen from the path. Bhrashta Yogi. It happens. So that's what Swayambhu is saying. Okay? So, and he also using two words, liberated purity and trained self-mastery. What's the difference? It's very interesting. Liberated purity is when you have escaped from the body-mind life and gone to the self. Because liberation is there. And at that time, your consciousness becomes pure. But the consciousness in the body-mind life does not become pure. It remains where it is. Okay? But there is another possibility. Trained self-mastery. You have trained your vital with the mind. So that is less. Okay? And it is easily overpowered when you put your mind control. The mind control is more suppression than rejection. You suppress, and when you suppress something and keep it under pressure, it will blow up like a volcano one day. Suppression is not the solution. Total rejection is the solution. Okay? That's why train self-mastery. You have trained your vital with your mind. Against its intrigue, note the word intrigue and its violence. Intrigue is got very, very subtle plans to do what it wants to do. It plans, hidden from yourself, it plans what to do, your vital. All labor to straighten out this native crookedness strikes the struggling will as a futility. It seems to be very difficult to control your vital. A flight, a withdrawal to happy heaven or peaceful dissolution easily finds credit as the only wisdom, and to find a way not to be born again gets established as the only remedy for the dull bondage or the poor shoddy delirium of the blinded and precarious happiness and achievement of earthly existence. So this is what Swayambhu is saying. He is telling you the difficulty is vital. Remember, he wants to absolutely have perfect realization of the divine, even the transformation of the body, vital and the mind. And you may say, you may think that Swayambhu is being very easy optimist. So Swayambhu is saying not at all. I am fully aware of all the difficulties. And he is actually listing out these difficulties for you, even those who they cannot even do what Swayambhu has done. He is telling you all the nature and the crookedness of nature. And still he says that I still believe that you can transform yourself fully. Not by morality, but by spiritual power and level 3. That should be possible. So the time is 8:21. We have got 15 minutes more. We can read the next paragraph. A remedy there should be. So, in other words, although it is so difficult, yet it is possible. But he is telling you earlier in the last in the last stages of the para, He has told you that the solution mostly sought for is escape. Let the body, mind, life remain imperfect. Why the hell do you bother about it? Let the soul come out and enjoy the level 2 and level 3 if possible. But definitely level 2, liberated period. Don't worry about the body, mind, life. That's the, it finds, simply using the word, easily finds credit as the only wisdom. So this has been the idea in India normally, but not now anymore, that escape from the necessity of birth in the physical world. Okay, that's what it is. So we can read the next para. Suti, maybe you have not read for a long time. Can you read?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I will read.
okay. A remedy, yet there should be.
Yes. A, a remedy, yet there should be, and is, a way of redress and a chance of transformation for this troubled vital nature. But for that, the cause of deviation must be found and remedied at the heart of life itself, and and in its very principle. Since life too is a power of the divine and not a creation of some malignant chance or a dark titanic however however obscure or perverted may be its actual appearance. In life itself, there is the seed of its own salvation. It is from the life energy that we must get our leverage. For though there is a saving light in knowledge, a redeeming and transforming force in love, these cannot be effective here unless they secure the consent of life and can use the instrumentation of some delivered energy at its center for a sublimation of the erring human into a divine life force. It is not possible to cut the difficulty by a splitting up of the works of sacrifice. We cannot escape it by deciding that we shall do only the works of love and knowledge and leave aside the works of will and power, possession and acquisition, production and fruitful expanse of capacity, battle and victory and mastery, striking away from us the larger part of life, because it seems to be made of the very stuff of desire and ego, and therefore doomed to be a field of disharmony and mere conflict and disorder. For the division cannot really be made, or, if attempted, it must fail in its essential purpose, since it would isolate us from the total energies of the world power and sterilize an important part of integral nature, just the one force just the one force in it that is a necessary instrument in any world creative purpose. The life force is an indispensable intermediary, the effectuating element in nature here. Mind needs its alliance if the works of mind are not to remain shining inner formations without a body. The spirit needs it to give an outer force and form to its manifested possibilities and arrive at a complete self-expression incarnated in matter. If life refuses the aid of its intermediary energy to the spirit's other workings, or is itself refused, they are likely to be reduced for all the effects they can have here to a static seclusion or a golden impotence. Or, if anything is done, it will be a partial irradiation of our action, more subjective than objective, modifying existence, perhaps, but without force to change it. Yet, if life brings its force to the spirit, but unregenerate, a worse result may follow, since it is likely to reduce the spiritual action of love or knowledge to diminished and corrupted motions, or make them accomplices of its own inferior or perverse workings. Life is indispensable to the completeness of the creative spiritual realization, but life released, transformed, uplifted, not the ordinary mentalized human animal life, nor the demoniac or titanic, nor even the divine, and the undivine mixed together. Whatever may be done by other world shunning or heaven-seeking disciplines, this is the difficult but unavoidable task of the integral yoga. It cannot avoid to leave unsolved the problem of the outward works of life. It must find in them their native divinity and, and ally it firmly and forever to the divinities of love and knowledge.
Okay, quite a big para also. But what he is saying is, okay, I have described to you how difficult it is to deal with the vital. Now he is saying, but is it possible that there is a solution? Or do we have to believe that the ascetic is right and the Buddhist is right, and we have to simply give up the body mind life level one, let it go? Because impossible, level one of the body mind life is permanently impure and imperfect, and we can do nothing about it. So just forget about it. The soul can escape and be very, very happy in the higher planes of consciousness. You can even live there forever. This is the idea. Now, Srinath is saying that no, if you look carefully, it is possible that there is a solution. And what is the solution? The solution is in the vital itself, he's saying. That's interesting. You may feel that the vital is impure, full of perversions, full of wrong movements, okay, egoism, desire, attachment, okay, all sorts of negative forces. But don't forget that the vital is energy. So why not use that energy? And how do you use that energy? By purifying the vital. So if you purify the vital, okay, you can use it. There are many examples in the physical world also. Nowadays we have discovered that, in fact, in Aurobindo hospital they have done that. They have done that in many places, but I'm just telling you, there's a huge hospital in Pondicherry, Aurobindo Hospital. So what they have done, they've got a beautiful garden all around. And that garden is maintained how, all the water that comes out of the sewage and the toilets, okay, they take it out and pass it through the soil which is there in the plants. And you know very well that the soil means not the, but the dirt that comes out of the toilets can become a fertilizer for plants. And when it comes out, it is used for this. So the water may be dirty, but the water can also have a positive aspect. Exactly in the same way, your vital also, if you purify it, you are left with pure water. So, and this pure water can be used. Exactly, the vital, only the pure energy will remain. How do you do that? That he will tell you in the next paragraphs. Okay. So they were suggesting that it is not necessary to let the vital be left alone. You can take it up and transform it. It's quite a big chapter, quite a big para, but we can start looking at it. Okay, we'll start. A remedy, yet there should be. Same as you word yet. However difficult the problem of the lower vital, it can be done. A remedy, a cure can be done. Yet there should be and is. Otherwise, the spiritual life is not possible. A way of redress. Redress means to get back to the original condition. And a chance of transformation for this troubled vital nature. But for that, the cause of deviation must be found and remedied at the heart of life itself and in its very principle, since life too is a power of the divine and not a creation of some malignant chance or dark titanic impulse, like some religions do believe. Okay? However obscure or perverted may be its actual appearance. However imperfect the vital may seem to be, there is a divine element in it. It is pure energy. Even matter, which seems to be so dull and so untransformable, can yet be transformed because the divine is there inherent in matter also. That's what is can be. But for that, you have to find out the cause. See, if there is a disease, okay, there is cholera, there is smallpox, what can you do? Will you submit yourself weakly to it, or will you try to find the cause? And if you find the cause, there are three doctors on the panel. So if you find the cause, now you know how to cure that disease. So that's exactly what we're saying here. If you find the cause of the impurity in the vital, now you have the power to change it. So find out what is causing this imperfection and impurity of the vital. That's what it's suggesting. Okay. But for that, the cause of deviation must be found and remedied at the heart of life itself and in its very principle, since life too is a power of the divine and not a creation of some malignant chance or dark titanic impulse, however obscure or perverted may be its actual appearance. In life itself, there is the seed of its own salvation. Life itself can become pure by its own action. It is from the life energy that we must get our leverage. So you have to use something in the life itself, which can, if you know what a lever is, na? A lever is, you can lift a very heavy weight, but with a lever. You can put, with a little force, if you use a lever, it can lift up a huge weight. So that's why they're using the word leverage. It's an image. Even with a little effort, it can be done. And what is that little effort? He will tell you. Okay. So, very interesting image he is using. Lever. We know that, na? Very heavy thing also. But if you have a thing like that, and the long handle, and you can press the long handle, with a little force, the whole weight also is lifted up from the point. Okay. So, so in life itself, there is a seed of its own salvation. It is from the life energy that we must get our leverage. For though there is a saving light in knowledge, a redeeming and transforming force in love, these cannot be effective here in the physical world unless they secure the consent of life and can use the instrumentation of some delivered energy at its center for a sublimation of the erring human into a divine life force. He's saying that knowledge is very pure, but can you make it practical in life? Very difficult, because the vital will completely distort its image. What about love in the higher vital? That also is very pure in its own field. But when it comes down into the physical world, it gets distorted because the lower vital will change it and make it dirty. Okay? So how do you do that? That's what he's going to tell you. A redeeming and transforming force in love, these cannot be effective. Knowledge and love are not enough to change the lower vital here, unless they secure the consent of life. So even the lower vital must cooperate with the yogi. Now this is very interesting, because this is exactly the image used in the Ramayana. Okay? Rama is the soul, he is the Purusha, and Sita is Prakriti, his own nature, his symbol. And our nature is always drawn towards the undivine forces. Okay? And that's why Sita is, she is taken away by Ravana. The image is very clear. It is that our outer nature is more apt to be going towards desire, attachment and ego than towards the soul. But now what does Ram have to do? He has to use the monkey forces. And the monkey is the symbol of the lower vital, because that's where the animals are. So he cannot become master of his own Prakriti. He cannot win back Sita without the cooperation of his lower vital. And the lower vital is the animal. So you have to use the energy in the lower vital to gain mastery of your own nature. That's the symbol. Okay? It's a very interesting symbol, but that's very, very clear. So this is Otherwise, people will wonder what is this image, what is Ramayana speaking about? What is this nonsense of an army of monkeys? Does it make any sense? It does make a sense if you understand this symbol. The yogi cannot have mastery over his own prakriti unless he completely gets a cooperation of the lower vital, which is the animal part in him. That's the symbol. That's what symbol is. So we'll have to stop here today also because it's a very long para and we have already come to the end of our session. I want 2 minutes beyond the time. So we stop here. Next time, Sunki, make a note. In life, even further down. Huh?
It is not possible.
Yeah, that's right. So note down that, we'll take it up from there. It is not possible to cut the difficulty. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, I'm cutting the link. Everybody, goodbye.